Before we get started with the episode, I just wanted to call attention to Gareth Damon Martin, the developer, designer, basically the single person responsible for this game. Goes by they, them pronouns, and we refer to Gareth as he a bunch in this episode. We realized our mistake afterwards, so we didn't re-record it, but I did want to apologize in advance, and we're going to include this in our prep. We already should have, but this is good to remember for us and for everybody out there. So yeah, we're sorry, and hope you enjoyed today's episode. And Gareth rules. This game is fucking awesome. So thanks for listening.
Wake up, sleeper. Dreaming again? Every cycle, you take your chances. You roll your dice. You do the work, get paid, survive. You turn up for your friends, or you don't. That's life on the eye.
Welcome to Wide Flank.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Wide Flank. We're here with regular Damon and special guest Alon.
Hello. What's up, guys?
Gotcha. Okay, so for this game club, we're doing a game club episode. We played Citizen Sleeper. I basically didn't know anything really about the game before we started playing. Did you guys, had you heard anything really?
It's one of those things I had seen in my Steam queue repeatedly, like in the suggested, and was always like, nah. And then I told Alon that I had like a random gift card from work, and I was like, I need games. He was like, get the one we're playing. I was like, all right, cool. And I beat it in like a day and a half. I was just like, obsessed. So I found out really fast.
Yeah, my first notes are like, what do I know about this game going in? I know basically nothing. The art looks kind of cool. I think it's like a text adventure or something. And getting in there, I just kept being like, oh, wow, it is a text adventure. And being like, I haven't played one of these since like the 90s or when I was like making them in QBasic.
Right. I've heard about this game probably like, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 times. And I've like I heard it was a good game or it was on a Game of the Year list. And then I would go Google it, and like every screenshot was a big block of text.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is not for me. Yeah.
I showed my girlfriend and she's like, it's cool, but I hate how like you have to read.
Yeah. I mean,
like, well, I love that. But
if I'm being honest, it's the closest I've been to a book in years.
Yeah, she was like, I like read her a passage that I thought was really cool. We were like on the phone and she's like, yeah, but couldn't they have just shown you that? And I was like, that's not what this game is. That's not what reading is.
Yeah, so I guess, it's not just a text adventure. Not that there's anything wrong with that. We all love a good text adventure. But what would you say like the like mechanics of this game are? Like,
it's almost like a high stakes like life sim, like almost like The Sims, but there's much more. Your character immediately has drive, unlike when you're playing The Sims, right? Like you understand that you don't understand your purpose, but that you want to have a purpose, and you are trying pretty immediately to work towards that.
Right. Yeah. You're a. To be honest, I don't actually really know. You are a
what is
robot.
This game again?
So you're a robot?
You're not fully a robot.
You're not a robot.
You're what's called a sleeper, and it's basically like a clone shell copy of a human that signed a contract to a corporation, and you're like the escaped worker body that worked for the corporation that is kind of haunted by the original memories from the body it came from.
So what happens to the body?
I'm not sure that's ever fully addressed, but I'm sure someone will try.
The original body?
Yeah.
I think they just get rich. I think they basically like sell their consciousness to this evil corp who then use it for like slave labor essentially. And then you escape, and they escape. They're like, foolproof mechanism is that like the body will die without their, company stabilizers.
Yeah, but my understanding was that they are separate. The sleeper is separate of the original body that their consciousness comes from. And I guess Teddy's question was about like, we don't really know what happens to the original donor body.
Right. I remember there's something in the game where they say like, well, because your original body couldn't stomach doing the work, so they sold off their consciousness. So is it just like the body? They don't actually want to okay, so if someone was like, okay, you could work your whole life, or you could basically die, and we could upload your consciousness to someone else to make them work their whole lives. What do you pick?
Well, is it die or is it be like sold? Yeah, I don't really know. It's sort of like Severance, and it's also sort of like, it reminds me of The Island. Do you remember that movie?
Yes.
Where you like win the lottery to like, but basically you're just a celebrity clone. I don't know. It's something along those lines. But yeah, I think another description that I was thinking and I wrote in my notes is like, it's like a slice of life, but sci-fi. Like, slice of life being, I think of it as usually a movie or a TV show where it's like just a depiction of like real life, just like mundane reality and a real relationship, not like, a drama or a war or whatever kind of movie, just like some, people living. And it's like that in a lot of ways, because even though obviously it's, fiction and fantasy, you're just living, and everyone on the ship is just trying to get by, and you're just kind of going with the flow and, I don't know, doing sort of whatever you want and trying to survive on this ship. I don't know.
Yeah, I have in my notes, you're a mechanic cutting apart spaceships, but you're also a bartender? Question mark. You can have both those jobs in the same,
and 50 more jobs.
Yeah, right. And a mushroom farmer.
Yeah, exactly. I love the mushroom farming.
So on the life sim aspect, basically like there's like the game presents you with like it's sort of like I kind of thought it was like what's that train movie?
Snowpiercer.
It was like Snowpiercer if you could go between the cars or something. It's like a big long spaceship.
Yeah.
And there's like different areas in the ship, and you basically can scroll along the ship with your mouse wheel, and you can basically interact with each like various hub of the spaceship, and you can work. You can like basically, like I said, be a bartender and make money that way, or you can like help the bartender or help the owner of the bar by like giving them certain resources you collect. And so you basically have like a bar at the bottom of your screen that that shows you all your resources that you're collecting throughout the game that can do different things at different nodes. And all that is like, Damon, you mentioned this a few times in the Discord, like none of it really matters. Pretty soon you're like inundated with supplies.
Yeah.
And you're just using them in various ways throughout the ship to basically just like unlock story. But I don't know, did you guys like in the early game, did you find like the resource management to be interesting or challenging or fun?
I actually really found it challenging at the very beginning. Basically, before you really understand what your actual goal is, I found myself like constantly like hitting the exhaustion or like not getting enough energy, things like that, and really not knowing how to spend it or like which events to prioritize. And I really enjoyed that aspect, and I really enjoyed that I like messed up some of the missions also, because not only is that like incentive for another playthrough, but I was just like, I'm curious, like if I'm still going to find out that information or if it's going to like bite me in the ass somehow later. So I did feel like it was somewhat high stakes early on, but it's pretty easy to get a grasp of and not feel overwhelmed by if you just stick to playing instead of just picking it up every now and then.
Yeah, I didn't use the words survival game when I was trying to describe it because it's more like life than it is a survival game. You know what I mean? Like in a survival game, it's like a constant struggle to manage your meters all the time from beginning to end, basically, right? There's no point in like Subnautica where you're just like, I'm forever good and I never need to do anything ever again. It's just still, struggling. But this is like you're worthless at the beginning of the game. You feel like a worthless piece of metal. Everyone like looks down on you. You owe people money, cryo chits all over the ship. Like you don't know what the hell is going on. And that felt like life in a weird way. I was just like, fuck. Like you wake up, you're like, I can need to fucking do this, but I only have 2 dice because I'm so like unhealthy. So you have like disadvantages as if you're a sick person in real life, and they mix that really well with the dice. I think is like a stressor, of I don't know. Like Destructor had said, it's a mix of storytelling and dice with every round melding choices with ticking clocks, and it's like. Sometimes you have really good dice and you have 5 of them and you're just like, oh my God, I can like go down any path I want right now. I can go down any storyline. Basically, the higher the dice number, the more chance of success in anything you pursue. And then as your health declines, the amount of different dice you get goes down. And then sometimes you just get unlucky and it's just 1s and 2s. And you're like, I can't fucking do anything because there's also negative effects that might happen.
Although they did a really good job with the 1s and 2s meaning something. Like those low values still came in for something. But it really felt way more immersive than a lot of like, more higher budget, highly developed games did because of how much they nailed that aspect. Like I felt the sadness of the character every time I had only the like metal box to go home to as my sleeping situation. Like that felt sad in a way that I feel like a lot of games with amazing graphics just have not captured.
Yes. I mean, that, if we want to go there, that is like a major thing for me, which is just like, I wrote down in my notes, reading is better than seeing. And, that thing that I mentioned earlier with my girlfriend being like, oh, they could have just shown you. I mean, I just think the writing was just so fucking good. And it wouldn't have worked if it wasn't, because you're reading 90% of the time you're playing this game. And time again, I would read something and just be like, like that is sick, and like every little thing too. It didn't have to be some like momentous thing. Like I completed some storyline or whatever, and that's when the writing was good. It was like getting mushrooms cooked for me, and just like the description of the smell and the caramelization. And I'm just like, oh my God, like there's no video game that can show me, well, not just show me, show everyone their perfect mushroom, right? That's like the beauty of it. It's like universal. Everyone who reads it has a different image in their head of the perfect mushroom, the perfect dashi ramen situation, that's being cooked for you. And like, I just think like your imagination is much more powerful than like, someone showing you with, good graphics.
Right. Only Miyazaki can show food that is that beautiful. Otherwise, just don't bother. Yeah, well, like a lot of the stuff, it's like, it's pretty weird, and it's like not. Yeah, like I mean, I think they did a good job of not just like, talking to you about like standard sci-fi stuff all the time. It was just like, really, like a lot of, since you're a robot, like a lot of the stuff happens like in the net, like in the network of the ship and stuff.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know. I feel like it would be hard to create something that was like as profound or mysterious as like your imagination in those contexts. Like they didn't just it made sense that it was like text-based, like you're saying. Like it just wouldn't, like, okay, I'm a really good looking mushroom. That's not, it's not, you can't really tell, right? It's
And there's something about like you were saying, Damon, I think like something about reading about this like shitty, cramped metal box that again, like we're all picturing something different, but we're all picturing something really bad.
Yeah.
And that is so much worse than just like seeing it, like clicking open door to a metal box with, you know, graphics or whatever, and then like clicking
There's a rat
sleep
in it.
Yeah, it's like, oh no, like you know, you just brush it up. It's like, this is stupid.
Yeah, Teddy, I really like how you pointed out that it wasn't really heavy-handed in the sci-fi aspect, and I actually think that's where it succeeded in its immersion factor. Is that like you understand everything it's referencing from the get-go, but the reason you are immersed as a robot whatever who doesn't really understand is that like things are just familiar enough that you're not sure if you're understanding them perfectly like everyone else around you is. Like even the way the mushrooms are being used, things like that, you're just like, oh, like I wouldn't cook them like that, like maybe I'm not human. And that's kind of like the discoveries you go through as the sleeper.
It's also amazing, like, again, only could be conveyed with written words, but like you don't actually feel things or taste things, right? Like it's all described in like a weird, there's like a gap between you and your senses because you're like this misplaced consciousness or something. So again, like this part, you take a sip of the gorel, that mushroom. The earthly,
literally no idea. The mushroom that starts with a G.
The earthy fungal tones fill your senses, almost blocking out sight and sound, like diving headfirst into a bog. You may not be able to get drunk, but this connection to something grown, something fermented, something old feels good. Like that is just such an amazing description and like situation that you can't describe in any other way than like the written word, basically.
Yeah, and I think if it wasn't text-based, it'd be really hard to understand the joy that your character is getting from something that they can't necessarily reap all the benefits from, right? Like if it was purely visual, it might just be like, oh, like even though he can't metabolize the alcohol, like he's just doing it to fit in. But when you get all those descriptions, it's just like, oh, like I'm partaking in humanness alongside the other humans who are kind enough to like let me hang out with them.
There's a world where this game is like first person and you click like drink and like your happiness meter goes up and you see like a little blurry for a second like you're drunk. Like that game could have been made and it would have been so bad.
Yeah, it would have been way less interesting and really just less relatable.
Yeah.
Or I don't even know if it's relatable so much as like, I mean, part of it for me is like it wasn't relatable in that it was like, it wasn't someone just like telling you their first person experience. It was like they're also like processing these weird things that they don't know. Like, is this what it's supposed to feel like when you eat something? Like, is this my memory of things? Like, it really was. I don't know. I just found like an interesting first person narrative and perspective that, like, again, we're saying it's just like it succeeds as like a book rather than that's like the best way to do it.
And you're always seeing from your perspective and the third person perspective. Like you're seeing from the bartender's perspective also while reading it, right? Like you're like almost seeing yourself try the drink. Like you're seeing yourself like talking back to them or like, you know, getting threatened or getting scared. Like, I don't know. There's something there. It's really good.
Yeah. On that note, I really found it pretty impressive that there didn't really feel like a wasted character. Like so often in video games, you just have so many NPCs whose pure purpose is just to like hand you an item to put you in a situation so that you have to go on an adventure. And every single character, I felt like it like had some depth and was like legitimately, I wanted to know more about them, work more with them, or like really avoid them. But then they kept showing up.
I think that's basically what the game is about, right? Like I you guys know more games than I do, but I feel like this game more than any other game I've ever played, I think is about like the side characters. Like it's about it's all side quests and it's all side characters, and that's the whole game. I mean, in a description I was reading by the developer Gareth Damon Martin, they said it's like the Death Star is there, off in the distance, but people are still living meaningful lives around it. The infrastructure needed for these sweeping set pieces affects thousands of lives, which play out month to month and have next to nothing to do with the big space war. That's us. We're all living around the Death Star right now, hearing about climactic events playing out somewhere else. Meanwhile, we're getting through the day to pay rent. It's just like they really focused on that, you know?
Yeah, I think in reference, like after like a couple of the characters die, there's like this one line like, and like I'll keep carrying on until I can't anymore, just like them or something. I was like, oh yeah, like even though they died these horrible deaths or whatever, it's just like, yeah, that's just what we're gonna do that too pretty soon. Like,
right.
It was just like, yeah, our lives are like, I don't know. Well, I'm so glad I'm alive, so I can go back to hacking the ship and like planting mushrooms. Like, yeah,
barely surviving.
Yeah, right. Like,
yeah, that's all of us in the gig economy. Like, living month to month, paying a shitload in rent.
I would say that was also maybe. I don't know. How did you guys feel about this? Even though like you pretty quickly on. Feel pretty resource set, you never really feel like you are thriving, right? It's not like in an economy-based video game where you're just like, oh, I have so much money, I can buy whatever item I want. Like, you don't really feel any benefit of the excess of your resources, other than, honestly, like more ways to be selfless with the other characters.
I mean, I think that's is part of why I didn't feel like I did feel like I had an abundance, because like I think games that like intense survival games or really intense like resource situations, like I'm thinking of Papers, Please comes to mind, where you just like I'm sorry, I can't let you through the border today because like I really need to pay rent or like pay for heating for my family. Oh
man, brutal.
And in this game, like I felt like I could do the most generous thing basically after like the first 15 cycles of the game. And on that note, like I felt like I didn't like everything we were saying was so strong in the beginning of the game, like feeling worthless, feeling scared, unsure about everything. Like I just felt like it didn't matter if I was rolling 5 out of 6 ones. I was like, as soon as I'm just going to go buy medicine. You know, I was just like, I can do whatever I want. And I felt like, even though I didn't feel like I was thriving in the sense of like achieving peak happiness, like I think the game still does a good job of, yeah, like what we are kind of saying, like, even though you're living well, so to speak, to the extent you can on a derelict space station, it's not great. But in that sense, I just felt like I could do whatever I wanted, and that pressure from the early game wasn't there.
It's sort of like I mean, there's a lot of developer quotes about, you know, the modern day and capitalism and, you know, fucked up mega corps and stuff like that. And yeah, you're thriving in a hell world. You know, you're thriving, but everything's still pretty bad is what I came down to. I was like, oh, I need to do, you know, as I was approaching my sort of end game, and I'm curious how you guys ended your runs or whatever. I had tons of money and whatever, and all that let me do is just not worry about my condition and my energy, and I could just always keep my meters full. But that's it. That's the only like plus I got, right? Like you're saying, Damon, there's no like, I didn't get the best gun in the game. And, you know, it's not that kind of game where I was just like, oh, I'm fucking king of the castle now. It's just like, no, I just rolled better in this day of life, you know?
Yeah. Right. I check my 401k in real life sometimes and I'm like, oh, it's up.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
And it's up a little bit.
Yeah, right. Or even if it's up a lot, like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Right.
I work every fucking day, you know? That sucks, man.
Yeah, what was the quote that you said about Prey, Teddy, where you're like, I'm the I'm the matador on the
I'm the
ship or
Minotaur.
something like
Yeah,
a
I'm the
minotaur.
Minotaur, yeah.
Matador.
Yeah, you're locked in here with me.
You're never that in this game. You never have any power. You're tiny and you could be squashed by anything. Even when you have tons of resources, right? You don't know what's around the corner. You could just the killer or some other bounty hunter could just appear and just fuck everything you're doing up, and that kind of stuff does happen, and you just, it's like almost a constant reminder that like, yeah, you don't matter, like, you know.
I do have to say I did enjoy that a lot of the looming threats, like you literally had a counter for like knowing.
I love it.
I thought that was honestly great because oftentimes when games try to be intense, it's just like by throwing surprise stuff that really comes out of nowhere, and oftentimes that really pays off, especially in higher budget games. But in a game like this, it was just like it was like having an unread email that you need to respond to the whole time, and like you just have that looming over you while you are just like, I guess I'm gonna try to go like help this person fix their ship, but I'm not gonna answer Ethan's email because I don't feel up to that today, and I don't know when I'm gonna feel up to that.
Every time you check your phone, your text message icon has like a badge on it.
Yeah,
you click it, and you're like, oh, it's that. Like, fucking hell.
Yeah, and it's not like you're super popular, just like inundated with notifications. Just like, damn, I really got to get to that, but not today, not this
now,
cycle, and probably not like the next 5.
Yeah, that is such a good way of putting it. Oh man, that's awesome.
I want to hear what endings you guys did, but before that, what made you drawn to certain missions? Because like to a certain extent, everything in the game is pretty optional, right? Like there were not, other than keeping yourself physically alive, there were like basically everything was a side quest that you could see through to an end. And why did you find yourselves drawn to certain ones over others?
Teddy, take it away.
Yeah, this is a good question. This was one I was going to ask you guys too.
And it's kind of Nolan's question too, right? What was your decision-making process? Yeah.
I feel like it was mostly mechanical, and like what that usually meant was like I did from the front of the ship to the back.
Oh yeah.
Because I didn't want to keep taking the elevator or the ferry across. But yeah, I don't know. There's like nothing I like gravitated towards that strongly. I don't think. What about you, Alon?
Yeah, it's a hard question to answer because I don't know. It's an interesting game because it is kind of a go your own direction game. Like it's very clear that there's moments where you have to choose A, B, or C. And it's also clear that those lead to either X or Y or Z. But it also never felt like on rails to me at all. It also just, I never was like, oh, if I do this, I'm going to do this. Like I never had that moment. It was just like, I was just sort of aware of it almost subconsciously that like, I'm in a system of games and I'm getting put down certain directions, but I'm just like going with the flow. I'm just answering the way that I would answer, or, what I think is right or whatever. So yeah, I mean, I think I was just following whatever seemed like the most pressing thing to me, I think. I mean, like for a while that was trying to get the tracker off me because I was scared of the bounty hunter once I, secured my medical conditions. And then I mean, for a while I Googled how long it takes to beat this game, and everyone says like 6 hours, 7 hours or whatever. I played like 15 hours.
Yeah, what the fuck is wrong? What the fuck?
And there was someone mentioned multiple endings in our Discord or something, and before that I wasn't even sure there was an ending. Like I had played 12-ish hours and when I saw that, and I was like, oh, interesting, there's like endings. And I went back to play, which eventually was my final time, and I was just like at the point where I was like, oh, there's like not many storylines left. I guess, I'm just like clearing everything out. And I felt like I was just part of the ship. Like there was no real ending. I could just stay there and keep farming and keep growing my relationships. And eventually I got to an ending, but it didn't feel like an ending. It almost felt like, what does it mean to have an ending in this kind of game? Like it felt unnatural in a weird way to me.
Yeah, I actually really like that aspect about it, where it didn't really feel like you were working towards a climax.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, cool, this like moment's finally happening. A couple of the endings, I will say, do have that feeling, but I'd say the one I first triggered, I didn't realize that was going to be an ending. I was like, this is just going to be cool. And then I was like, oh, I beat the game. It's over now, I guess. And then I realized you could boot back in and like not trigger that event. And then I did that to get through almost every single ending in the game.
Wow. Holy shit. So are there a ton? I actually didn't really research this part.
Yeah, basically not every single quest, but I'd say like a strong like 60 to 75% of the quests you can see through to some sort of ending. So Lemon Mina, like that was one of those ones where you're just like, oh, like this is like my cool coworker guy. He's got it hard too. What are we gonna do? But you can see that one through to an ending, right? Where like he's working really hard to find a way off the ship, like very actively. Yeah. And I found that like most of the quest lines ended up resulting in something like that. That was either like a way off or a reason to stay.
Right.
I didn't do like, I stopped basically halfway on building the new ship. I forgot what it's called, but I was like really afraid that was gonna end my game. Like that was like the basic ending or something. So it's like, I'm not gonna do this until very late in the game. But did you guys? I fucked that quest up, or I failed that drive. I don't know how. The Lemon Mina.
Oh yeah, I blew that one too. You have to babysit her, I think.
I babysat her.
And, I didn't babysit her.
Basically, they start calling out ID numbers or something, and you're like, let's get out of here.
Riot.
I said, let's get out of here. And they were like, okay, you failed.
So that doesn't actually fail it. I saw that one through after picking that same thing as you. And I thought that was cool that like a game, like an indie game, decision tree game, like you would think like that you'd probably hit some like roadblocks. They wouldn't like be able to account for everything, but it really felt like they accounted for a lot of the nuance of those types of like end game situations. Because there was still a way to see through that storyline with Lem, even after you like fail the main drive of securing a ticket on getting that ship. Like you can work with him if you've met another character who's like been watching you to kind of like sneak your way onto the ship with him.
Oh, sick. Love it.
Yeah. So I also thought like the multi-character interaction aspect was cool, where like you can only do X with Lem if you've met Y character.
Right. I ended up finishing via Neovend and the Gardener.
Yes. That was what I did.
Yes, me too. Yeah.
Oh, I love that we all did that. But I just loved Rico and the mushroom situation. And that's when I found total stability. I was like, oh, I can, farm mushrooms, cook them, eat them. Like it could repair my condition, all this stuff. And then eventually like it's just a mushroom cycle and there's not anything else to pursue. And that's when I was like, fine. At one point, I had 0 drives, which are quests for people who didn't play. And so I was like, fine, I'll climb the fucking spoke. That was like the one thing I didn't do yet. And then I like remembered, oh yeah, like Neovend, I did all that stuff. And so now I was like back in the net or whatever and doing all that shit, dealing with the killer. And then I met the gardener, who's one of my favorite characters. And yeah, it was great. It was a nice one.
Did you think you were getting to an end game when you were approaching the gardener situation? Because for me, I was just like, oh, I beat the game. I guess I did it.
I didn't know what the hell was going on. I thought the gardener was bad, but then it's pretty clear pretty quickly that like it is an ending. I think when you plant the seed, wait the amount of time, and then you have like all these fleeting thoughts about like Rico and reality, and then like on the other end is pulling you is like you could be free of your body and just like in the network. And I'm just like, oh, this is cool. This is a good way to end.
One of my few complaints about the game was that its poetic language sometimes got in the way of it mechanically, where I was trying to I entered the net like, and I wanted to pick the option to not like join the gardener. I wanted to like get out of cyberspace, go back into like my shitty body.
So you press leave.
So I didn't understand what I was choosing because it was like, do you break the thread or do you turn around? I was like, I don't know what either of these mean at all.
It was like
anymore,
break
but
the
they both
thread.
sound cool.
It was break the thread or squeeze Rico's hand, I think.
Yeah.
And I broke the thread also, but yeah.
Yeah, to me, in my mind, I guess I was like, break the thread. That's like, that means get out of the internet for sure. And then it was just like,
awesome.
You become one with the gardener, and like,
Yeah.
yeah.
It says if you break that thread, you'll be free to dissolve here, to grow strange and beautiful among a million others. If you follow it, if you squeeze Rico's hand, you will wake up back in that dying body with all the pain and warmth that entails.
Yeah,
and I was like, I'm fucking done. I don't want to manage my meters anymore.
Yes,
Get me out of here.
So, did neither of you end up doing the DLC section at all?
No.
I started. That's with Peak and Esh, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I started it really late when I already had the seed planted.
Mm-hmm.
And I gotta say, that was my only point in the game where I was like, I wish there was a fucking fuck off button where you just don't want to continue a storyline and you just tell the characters to all fuck off, because I just have to, like, you would try and end a cycle and go to sleep, and then it would say, oh, you have like an active thing, you can't end your cycle, and I'd have to go talk to fucking Peak or whatever, and I was just mashing through because I didn't give a shit. I was just waiting for the seed. I was like, no, I didn't want to start this. Like, I didn't mean to start this. But alas, there's no fuck off button, but that would have been nice.
By the time the DLC even prompts itself in game as saying like, you should start this as a late game thing, which I think was a fair and good thing for the game to do, especially since it was DLC added later. So like for people who played it originally and then that was added, like they probably would have been like, oh, this is annoying, I'm like in this situation, but I want to go do that thing. And I would say like that was kind of the point when I started that part of the game, the DLC, where I was just like, I love this story, but this is also no longer a game in the way it was a game in the pre-DLC portion. It was kind of purely interactive storybook at that point. I thought it was a really beautiful, good story that I really enjoyed, and I like went through, got all the endings, really enjoyed it. But that was where like I finally accepted that like at least part of this game is just a picture book and not just a game.
Yeah.
Was there more artwork in the DLC, or I feel like because I've seen stuff for the sequel that's coming out, and it looks like much more visual as well.
The sequel sounds fucking cool, by the way. I don't know if you guys heard or listened to the remap interview or something. It's basically, so at the beginning of this game, a bunch of sleepers escape. You're not the only one, and then you only hear, you only go through your story. So it's a different sleeper, and it's like out deep space, set on an asteroid belt, and you have a ship and a crew, and you're just trying to like make it by. I mean, his inspo for it is like Cowboy Bebop and Firefly. That's cool. Those are his words, and I was like, "Oh my god, let's go!"
Yeah, might have to watch. Might have to play that. Yeah,
he's like, you live in a flat with a bunch of losers in space trying to make ends meet. And I was like, that sounds incredible.
Hell yeah. I think like going back to the beginning, like what characters we gravitated towards. Nolan's also asked like, what was your decision making process? Did you role play as a particular persona? And like we said, choose options that seem to give your character more story content along with certain characters. Like in the beginning, you pick like a class and you have like different skills. And like one thing I thought would have been like pretty soon you can just, like I said, you can be a bartender and a ship cutter. Like I keep sticking to that because it's like I felt like my character didn't have a lot of character, so to speak. It was
I agree with that.
It could do anything, and on top of all the resources, like even if I had all the resources but it was like I was just really good at engineering or something, like in various situations. Like what I love about like BioWare or like other like old like Baldur's Gate RPGs is like you're presented with these situations where you just have no skill points you just cannot execute. They're like, you can do all these different options and you can resolve the situation, but since you have no skill points in magic or intellect and you're a fighter, like you can't do it. And I feel like it makes those moments when you can do something feel satisfying and important. And in this one, I just feel like I could and did everything. And
for a while, I didn't even understand what it meant. Like, I just picked one, and then I don't even remember what it was. You get a +1 in one of the types of actions. That's how it is. Every character gets +1 in some type of action. But I had no idea what that meant. You're just like a nobody trying to scrape by. I'm not like looking for engage events because I get a +1 to my dice in those events. I'm just doing whatever I can to get by. So like sort of, yeah, it's not that well presented because you're not really a different character. You just have like a barely different advantage in one of the types of actions, but there's no like
it doesn't matter. It effectively
it just really doesn't matter.
It doesn't inform decision making or gameplay basically at all. It almost feels like a beta version for a system that could be really cool in Citizen Sleeper 2, right? Like it would be really easy to expand upon it to make it higher stakes and make your personal gameplay and story more interesting. But in this one, Teddy was right. Like you can eventually just do everything, and that eventually doesn't take that long to get to.
Yeah. I think he missed it a little bit with that. Yeah.
Right. It'd be cool if you could do like in the mushroom farm, you could do like a super basic task, but like in the bar you could, or whatever, you were like in the ship place, you could like build spaceships by the end of the game. Right. And both those awarded you slightly different things. But whatever.
It would definitely add to replayability, but I don't know if it would make the first time you play better. You know what I mean? Because like, for example, Prey, I obviously didn't like it, and I was just down one tree, and I had to like basically play that way. Like I had to just hack every door, whereas you were like transforming into pencils and going through like little holes in the window, which is much cooler. And I think it's interesting because it leaves the option of me playing Prey again and having like a completely different experience. Like everything I do would have been different, but I don't want to play it again because I had a bad time.
There's kind of Teddy, I don't know if you feel in tune on this, but there's kind of a running joke among people who play Stardew Valley. An old boss of mine put me onto it, and when I told him like, oh yeah, I've been playing for the last week, he was like, how many times have you restarted? And I was just like, yeah, like several. Because you learn a mechanic and then you're just like, this run could go so much better if I plant these turnips in this specific layout. And then like I'll be set up to get the greenhouse by the time the first winter comes around. And I think if they nailed the kind of risk that is imparted onto your character a little bit better with the mechanics in Citizen Sleeper, that it would have been a game that I felt incentive to start over once I understood the mechanics better, because I would have wanted to play a certain way. But because everything was so accessible, I didn't have to play a certain way. I got to do everything.
Yeah. I agree. I think I think I said this with Souls games and stuff. Like I almost always like play some amount, and then I'm like, okay, I got it. I'm actually going to play for real now or something. And yeah, I think that's true. However, maybe it's to this game's credit, I did start a new run.
There you go.
Because I did endurance in the beginning, and I was like, fuck this.
I like hearing you guys talk. I actually am reminded of Slay the Spire, which, as you guys know, I love. I think
I beat it. I beat that on
first try, famously. But I think that game does what this game's trying to do well, right? So that game has 4 different classes, but 3 different like starting classes before they added one later. But it's basically the exact same game which is I think what Citizen Sleeper wanted out of their characters, but the like passive ability makes each character actually play very differently. So like the first character in that game regenerates health after every fight. And that's like sort of easy mode. Not saying that that character is easy, but it's more forgiving for a first playthrough, right? Because by the time you play a second character, you're like, oh, fuck, like my health is low and I have to like do something about it. I have to like stop taking damage, right? And it like you recognize other things. I think that this game could have been that, right? Like your first character or something, just as an example, could have like only gone down 1 energy instead of 2 energy at the end of every cycle or something like that. And you'd be like, I would have loved the game. And then you play a different character who has something a little different. And all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I need to eat like every cycle. This is insane, you know? And it feels like a different game.
Yeah, like new class hungry hacker just like has to eat twice a day, but so good in the net.
Yeah, exactly.
I will say the DLC actually did nail something that the beginning of the game I think didn't do as well, but it almost felt like too late because by the time you reach that, you just like kind of have all your resources. But there were always kind of 2 ways in the DLC to accomplish the same goal. And it would be like one of them is social and one of them is like manual labor, physical, like skilled labor thing. So like if you were still like your skill tree was only oriented towards one of those, like you had a way to do it that was more rooted in who your characters like what skills embodied your character. And I thought that was really cool, but it was also like came into play a little too late to feel meaningful.
Right. Yeah, and it gives me more hope for Citizen Sleeper 2 because I fucking love this game, and you know the reception was really good, and I'm excited for the next game. And I think there's already like they mentioned like different stressors, like different it's not going to be the same. Like you need to find a stabilizer and like all this kind of stuff. It's going to feel like a different story, different world.
Have you guys played Frostpunk or This War of Mine? Have you played those games?
I have not.
I've always ignored Frostpunk just because of the name, but that might be to my detriment.
The name is bad.
Yeah, and This War of Mine, I started playing and then it almost felt like it does a lot of what Citizen Sleeper did, but way more heavy-handed. So I was just like, I don't fucking care about these refugees. Like, like it just was handing it to me way too... don't you feel bad for these people? Whereas it's like I would have if you didn't tell me
if I
to.
cared about them, right? Like if I naturally cared about them. But what's the deal, Teddy?
Those are made by the same company, and it was very similar to me, and just like the way they're like little story beats, but also like lots of like resource management, survival type stuff. And I just got that vibe a lot through these games. Like sort of those games, I would say like a little bit harder decisions to make, like a lot of like more trade-offs that you have to make. But like one thing I was just wondering for this game, like why didn't they just add a difficulty mode? Like make it so like a lot of or like Into the Breach or something, like where it's just like, okay, you get less scrap and you take more damage. Like maybe that would have just like pushed the
survival.
Yeah, just like it would have made it a little bit more challenging.
I think a lot of the mechanics that we have repeatedly said we would like to see like either improved or like added to this game that would increase that challenge are so much easier to implement into something non-emotional like Slay the Spire or even Dead Cells, right? But you don't really want that roguelike quality into a game that like at its core is about like learning to be human by having emotional conversations with people and having to like, die and then have those really long conversations again, right? Like every interaction you have with the characters in this game, you really only want to have one time, right? Remember that it happened versus that it's rewarding to have that conversation again.
I agree with that. And I also want to remind everyone that this was developed by one person. This is not a company. This is an indie game developed by one person. So
He
It's
charged
very
money
much-
for it, so fuck him.
Yeah,
That would
well,
be good.
I'm just saying, what's possible, what's feasible to ask for. I think, overall, just great job, and I felt very fulfilled, even though, I'm filling the Danny role of every indie game we play. Danny, just I just want to say, it's so
Well, now
cool
I can't say
that
anything
someone
bad.
can
Now I
make
can't
it-
say anything bad.
Yeah, I agree. You shouldn't say anything bad.
Okay.
Say something bad.
Okay.
No, I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know. Well, here's the opportunity to be bad. The rest of Nolan's questions is: which character would you most like to grab a space beer with? Which character would you be fine never seeing again? And which character would be the best in bed? I mean,
I definitely loved Emphis the most.
I love Emphis,
the mushroom cook. Like, he was probably the first character I was just like, this. Where he's like, I want to hang out in this world.
I want to chill with Emphis. Yeah.
He was really cool. I really liked that he really just wanted to know about things he couldn't have known personally. And that was like his motivation. And I thought that was really cool. So definitely would give him all those positive ones that no one's asking about. I'm trying to think who, if anyone, I actively really disliked.
I mean, Ethan.
Yeah, they did a good job making me hate Ethan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
but
can,
then
he
he's
can
also
fuck off.
He's also just kind of a relatable fuck up, right?
Yeah,
Like,
in the end, I did feel really bad.
What
for
about
him.
Fang?
Who's Fang?
Fang is the sort of rebellious
the hacker. Yeah,
I
hate him.
Well,
Oh
so I
my
loved
God.
he had a lot of really good quotes. I'm upset that I didn't write any down of just his anti-capitalist rants. But I'm trying to get this tracker off me, and he just
keeps disappearing.
He's just hustling me. He's just weeks of this guy just being a no-show, and then he just pops up out of nowhere, and he's like, "I need you to hack into this thing for me," and then I promise I'll get your tracker off later. I'm like, dude, fuck off. So he can fuck off.
I did feel legitimately stressed by that, where
Yeah.
I kept being like, cool, I'm going to get my tracker out. I don't have to worry about this meeting anymore. And then I'd be like, where the fuck did he go?
Yes, dude.
And then you'd go back to his hideout and it'd be like, he's hiding for the next 3 cycles. You have no idea why or where.
Fucking Fang, dude.
Same with also Bliss. I was just like, after I got fucked over in the first one, I was like, I don't want to work with you anymore.
Yeah, I don't trust you. I don't trust that.
I just don't want to do it. I don't know. I don't think it's you. Maybe it's your little weird accomplice guy.
Yeah.
I just don't want to do it.
Did you guys meet Caster?
Remind me who that is.
Bald guy, glasses, beard.
Yeah. Caster's chill as fuck. He's just playing that game.
Yeah. So he's actually one of the characters that I hated the most.
Why?
Because he becomes super...
He beats you in backgammon.
No, because he becomes super not chill in some of the storylines if you've met him and then do other things. In the Lemon Mina storyline, he helps you find a way to sneak onto the ship, but he's basically saying, I need to take basically control of you so I can spy on the corporation. He just has all these ulterior motives and is really not upfront about any of them, and just always shows up at the least opportune time to just corner you and just be like, you ready to talk about this? And you're just like, you're not really giving me any choice.
What a fucker.
So I liked him a lot at first, but I'd be happy to be without him to answer Nolan's question.
Yeah, because at first you just get, what do you get? You get
he wants you to just supply data.
5 data and and it's sick. It's holy shit, this guy's got the goods.
The way he talks, his whole monologue while you're playing the game, I thought was really good too. One character I just wish I knew more was the person who was trying to rehabilitate or save the sleepers, the sniper
Sabine?
guy. The sniper guy who's
sniper guy
who gets killed by Ashikid. I don't know. There's the person who's got the ship you're fixing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
that guy
eventually,
is awesome.
Yeah, and eventually you track down someone who stole the ship piece.
Ashton.
Yeah, I guess.
Ashton's who you track, right?
Yeah, and he's like a sniper, and
Yeah,
he's
so
awesome.
you're helping
And
his
he has
shipmate
a
Ankita
sleeper.
rebuild her ship, and then you find out
Yeah.
that he stole the part to help a sleeper. And
Right.
yeah, that was one of the highlights of the story for me.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that was like very Cowboy Bebop, like just tragedy story. I enjoyed it. It was great.
And then the last part, sexual attraction. I don't
Was
know.
anyone hot? Bun?
Tala was really cute, I thought. The bartender.
The bartender.
Oh.
All of our interactions were really flirty and cute, and I was like,
Mhm.
oh yeah.
That one
down with Tala.
very flirty. I thought that was going to be like the
Yeah.
one potential romance thing,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
any, in the game. I don't know. The gardener.
I
Like-
love the gardener. Digitally fuck me.
Like honestly, if anyone, probably just like Neovend was like the most charming, right? Just
Yeah,
like you're just like, yeah, I love this dude. I
Yeah,
want to help hit this fucking vending machine take control.
right, exactly.
I think the gangster with the prosthetic arm, she's my type.
Oh, Rabia?
Yeah. Mhm.
Rabia rocked.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the Rabia Yannick
Yeah.
thing
Yeah,
where
yeah.
Yannick's like body is taken over. Oh, it was so sick. All right. Yeah, what else should we talk about?
Did any of you guys play the class with a robot on its shoulder?
I only played the first class,
Okay.
whatever,
No,
operator or something.
That's cool. I wish I knew that was an option.
Yeah,
Yeah,
one
do
of
you-
them, it's like you have a drone or something. I don't know. I didn't pick it, but I figured one of you guys would, honestly.
Oh, you know what? I think I did pick it, and it just doesn't come into play.
Okay.
I think it's just visual on your character.
Okay, great.
Yeah, machinist. No.
Okay.
Yeah, machinist and operator both have little
Oh, they both have
companion
one?
droids in their art.
Oh.
But yeah, it doesn't come into play.
It
at all.
doesn't do anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Citizen
Okay.
Sleeper 2. Add a companion droid.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotta have a familiar. That's very important in fantasy games.
Well, there's the cat, the stray cat,
sort
which
of.
I
yeah.
spent so many credits feeding, and I got
I
nothing
never went back to that house.
Oh, yikes. Okay.
Oh man. When you went up to the Spire and you could rent the room, and I misunderstood the mechanic as that's how much it cost every night to sleep there. I was like,
Oh,
I'm just gonna go back down the Spire, stay at another room. Like there's
Wait, it costs that every night?
no, it doesn't, but I thought that's what I thought that's
I was
what
like,
it was.
man, no, that's where all my chits went.
Yeah. No, that was just a funny moment I had where it was just like
That's
it's like
not
I
worth
don't
it.
I was like, I'm resource rich, but I don't have 40 creds a night to stay at this shitty hotel in the Spire.
yeah, the like hints of capitalism are so good in this game and like executed perfectly. And there was this quote. He said, I never wanted to make a story centering around taking down a comically evil conglomerate. I wanted to tell a story at capitalism's periphery, where so many of us have learned to exist. And I was just like, yeah, that's right. Again, we've said it over and over again, but it's just like you're just on the edge. You're just like struggling and scraping and seeing everyone around you do the same. And that sort of like almost builds like a community or you wanting to help people and people wanting to help you. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, it's cool that the enemy isn't comical, large, evil megacorp, but the consequences that they left behind for all the other people. Like you are just in the wake of the world they created, and it's not a constant evil that you can actually even one-to-one fight.
Right.
It's just one that you have to learn to coexist with in a lot of ways.
Yes, exactly. And that is very reality driven. We're just working shitty jobs to scrape by. That's what you do in this game.
Yep.
Right. It's like very Darwinian. It's like you have this like communist group that like is making it so far, but like then you also have this gang who's like we are holding the station together in the wake of it, and it's like it just works as much as either like brute force does or idealism does, and it only goes so far. Yeah, I agree.
And you're
with
just
that.
basically like a child dropped into it and having to like peel all the layers back one by one. What about the just one last thing? Like we didn't talk about like how it looks and stuff. What do you guys think about this sort of like the drawings and like the ship and stuff like that?
I think it's pretty aesthetically perfect game. Like, I love all the hand-drawn art. Obviously, I think there could have been like a little more life to like the actual map and stuff like that, but being developed by one person, I was just like, this is mechanically fine, and then I get to like the point and get to enjoy it. But thought the music and everything like really set the tone and really immersed me. Thought it was really, really successful overall.
Same with you, Teddy, or what?
Yeah, I feel more angry about or like harshly towards the overworld graphics and experience there. I thought that was just like not good. I didn't get the sense of it being a ship. It didn't feel. I played it both on my Steam Deck and PC and just felt like it was just like a bunch of Legos. But otherwise, like, you know, I played. I think he. It doesn't matter, but I played this like in bed. But like my first few nights playing it, like all the lights off on my Steam Deck,
Perfect,
and was just like, this is so weird and creepy and surreal, and the spaceship didn't matter so much. It was just like, yeah, every time I met a new character and I saw their drawing or heard the music, or like you took damage and it like blinked or flashed or whatever. Yeah, it's just like, wow, this is cool. Yeah,
it works. It worked so well. I mean, it like I found myself losing a lot of time, but usually when I lose time, it's because like I'm playing a 5v5 with 5 friends and it's online competitive and it's so fun. I'm like, oh fuck, it's 2 a.m. And this was very different of like losing time because I'm teleported into another world. And like after my first time playing, it was like 4 or 5 days until I played again, and I was really dreading it, to be honest. Not because I didn't like it, but because I was like, fuck, I don't remember anything. I have no idea what storylines are going on. I have no idea. I don't remember how the dice work or like how to stay alive or anything. And then like you go in and I was just like I was just like in there. I was just in the world, in the ship. It was just like such an effective, you know, universe. And like every storyline was its own world to just like dive into. It was just tremendous.
Right. It really should be played like over the course of like 4 days or something. Right?
I mean, it's like a book that you can't put down. That's how it should be played.
Yeah. I failed the first quest, the
paying it back or drag us.
Yeah. Like he basically just fires me off the
oh
yard.
My god!
Because I didn't really like. I think like halfway through I realized I was like, oh fuck, like no, I have to like do this because I was like dumping all my 1 dice on like the safe option.
Yeah,
and just like constantly failing the mission. And then like I came back later and was like, yeah, oh fuck, I realized what I've done, and I blew it. So yeah, I agree. Play it all in one setting. That was my idea, so I agree with myself.
Should we rate this game? Should we do our ratings?
Yeah, what's the scale? What am I saying?
Ratings.
Okay, yeah, maybe we should do a re-explainer. So it's the Michelin system. Are you familiar with how the Michelin rating system works?
Yeah, they give it a star.
Yeah, so it was invented by Michelin tires. I don't know if you know that.
I do.
Okay, so a 1 is and it's to get people to use tires. So a 1 is if it's on your way, this restaurant is on your way, you should go. 2 stars is if it's a slight detour, or if it's a detour but it's not too big, you should go to it. And 3 is you should make a special trip to go to this restaurant. And they would publish this, so they would get you to go there. So to these restaurants to use tires. So essentially that's what we do here. So it's like recommend is a game can get a 0 also, but it would be like what is it for this? It's one is, would you recommend it to someone who
likes this kind of game or kind of genre? 2 is,
would you recommend this to any
gamer? And 3 is like, everyone you know should play this, even people who don't play games.
Yeah.
And then same with senses, is like the aesthetics of the game and fun. And the numbers can be whatever you feels right to you.
Yeah. That's what we do.
I feel like, well, we just did aesthetics, so I feel like I think it's a 2 for me.
Yeah,
because I feel like the overworld I just really didn't like, but otherwise I think everything else was good.
Yeah, it's not a 3. I mean, I like the hand-drawn comic book. I didn't really feel like it matched that well with the way the rest of the game looked. And yeah, of course it could have been better, but there were also moments where I was like, wow, like when you're up on the eye and you can like rotate the way the ship is facing, like with your mouse wheel. Like there were certain moments where I was like, wow, this is just so cool. And yeah, the music is its own interesting thing, because I think if someone just like sent me that album, I would have been like, yeah, it's really boring, like bad. Like it's like AI generated electronic music and bad, but like it fits perfectly. And like there's certain cues, and I still don't really know what they are, but they always felt right in that Subnautica kind of way, where I'm like, something magical's happening. Like I don't even know what's happening, you know?
Yeah.
And it was great.
None of it was like amazing music in its own right, but it was just so perfectly executed tonally for what it was supporting. So I'm also giving it a 2. Like, yeah, I do think I agree with Teddy. There were inconsistencies, but I was more immersed than Teddy was in the overworld and everything. That I liked it too. Yeah.
I thought that scrolling with your mouse wheel like made it feel like a big ship to me, because like sometimes I would like try and go from one end to the other, and it's just like scroll. You know, I was like, I'm like traveling long distances with my hand.
Yeah, I actually got jealous hearing that, because I actually played it on my Switch, so I was just like holding shoulder buttons to like kind of scroll through, and I was just like, I wish I could scrub a little faster, because I know where I'm going.
The handheld controls were not very good. I thought
they were not amazing. No.
Yeah,
it felt like a PC game.
Which it's strange, because I feel like it should be
all
good
you do is
controller.
click and scroll. That's like the only 2 buttons, and like drag the dice or whatever.
It should be on iPhone, is what I thought, honestly.
Like an amazing mobile game.
Yeah,
there's a lot of like really dumb quality of life stuff too that would just make it like so much cleaner, right? It's like, okay, you need 3 mushroom spores in the aviary to like grow mushrooms, but you have to do one at a time. You drag one in, click, like work or whatever, wait, drag another in. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? I can't drag 3 in at once. What is this? But yeah,
that was the Dark Souls aspect.
Yeah, exactly. That's why it's a Souls like.
Yeah.
Because it's shitty in some ways. How about fun?
I think I'm giving that maybe like 1.5, 2, because like as much as I really loved it, there's plenty of things I love that I know I can't recommend to any single one of my friends. I know that it's going to come with certain tastes. Yeah. And this is definitely a game that doesn't appeal to everyone. I think turned into other media, the story has the potential, like if they focus on one of the storylines, has great potential to like have mass appeal. But as far as like an experience, something you sit down with, like it's not for everyone.
So is this for recommend? What you'd say you'd give it like a 2? You think, like anyone who plays games, or more like?
I think for this one, for recommend, as far as like to other gamers, probably more like closer to the 1, just because I know that like plenty of people who love games and love good stories aren't going to love sitting through something like this where they have to. Yeah, exactly. I happen to really enjoy it. It was a really nice break from what I normally play and like interact with. But there's plenty of people who like very justifiably just won't enjoy the format.
Yeah. Are you the same, Teddy?
Yeah, for fun, I would say for recommend, it's a 1, and it's a soft 1. You know, it's like, I'd be very like, be careful. It's basically a book. and fun. I think I really enjoyed the beginning. Like, I loved the reading. Like, towards the end of the game, I was like, I kind of like not really paying that much attention. And I also feel like there was like a middle section of like where you're starting to get the resource management, where I was like, oh yeah, okay, I got this. I'm going to go here, do this. Like, I'm really optimizing the system. And that was really exciting to me. And I was really enjoying the story and really feeling like I was starting to understand the mechanics. And then I just blew past that and was like, okay, this isn't fun anymore. It's just busy work.
Right. There's a lot of waiting too.
Yeah. So I would say one for fun, maybe also, just barely. But yeah, well on.
Yeah, I mean, I was leaning two for fun because, like I said, I really just like lost time and loved it. But there are a lot of like moments.
Hear that thunder?
Yeah, that was loud. I'll hear it in a couple seconds. Yeah, where's my thunder? But yeah, there's moments of waiting. There's moments where I was like, oh, I have nothing to do. There's moments that I accidentally started the DLC and don't want to read all this bullshit, so I just have to mash through, like stuff like that. So I can't go beyond one for fun. For recommend, I mean, everything you guys are saying is logically correct, but I'm leaning towards a 2 because I rarely read. Damon doesn't read. I don't know if you read, Teddy. But like,
not really.
It didn't. Not really. And like, it didn't.
Lame.
It didn't matter. Like for 1 second, that didn't detract from my experience. I wasn't like, damn, this is too much reading. I was just like, this is fucking awesome. Like, I love it. Like, I believe in the game enough to be like, just fucking try it. Like, I know it's ADHD world and no one reads anymore, but like, just fucking try it. It's really cool. Me, Damon, and Teddy all loved it. Like, just give it an hour and, return it on Steam if you don't like it. But I think people will often be like, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing I want to shove in the face of a lot more of my friends who play video games. But I know who's going to take to it and I know who's not. So I'm trying to be like reserved and not, not waste my points with people.
Yeah. I mean, I know you guys said that it like the buttons are bad on handheld, but I feel like that is also like an optimal way to play it is how you played it, Teddy, of like the lights are off, you're going to bed, just like boot it up, because I just feel like that's like prime immersion, right? It's like your phone is plugged in, charging, whatever, no one's contacting you anyway, and it's just like, I'll try this for a little bit. And I just believe in the strength of the writing and the game and the art and the aesthetics that like people will just get sucked in. Even if they don't finish it, I think they'll be like, that was really sick, but it's not for me, and still play 5 hours,
If anything, I'd probably recommend this game more to non-gamers who are interested in games but aren't. There's a lot of people like my girlfriend Vaughn who just like love the idea of a lot of video games but are intimidated by mechanics to an extent. And just like, that's a barrier to entry. And this game doesn't really have a barrier to entry. Anyone can play it. It is actually really accessible in that way. Yeah. And probably would appeal to non-gamers in a lot of ways that it doesn't appeal to gamers.
Yeah.
Have you guys played 80 Days?
No.
Don't know it.
Yeah, you should check it out. It's also like a sort of a steampunky. It's Jules Verne though, so I feel better about it. But it's an iPhone game, and it's like very text based. It's like it's basically a book, but there are some more mechanics too.
Apparently, that's a trend right now. I mean, I was listening to the Remap episode, and one of them said it's the year of narrative bangers. And I was like, that is such a fucking funny sentence. But there's like a game called Norco, and I can't remember the third game, that all were like indie games that got like rave reviews, and everyone's like, holy shit, reading and text is amazing.
Yeah, like Disco Elysium, I know, was like another one where it's interesting. Like, they're taking this RPG mechanic aspect of like skills just in story mechanics and like, or like achieving resources. And this is like also a very modern like D&D or like pen and paper.
I was gonna
mechanic.
say there's some D&D to this, right? It's like anything you want to accomplish, roll a dice. It's just you know what the dice is gonna be. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you I don't know if you've been playing anything on besides like Gloomhaven, but like a lot of modern systems are based on like D6, like the 6-sided die, and it's like if you get a 1 or a 2, it's a fail. A 3 is a neutral, and a like or 3-4 is neutral. 5-6 is pass, and like all of them like have some. It's not like in old school D&D. It was like, do you achieve this score, then you accomplish your. Like you pick the lock. And in like new systems, it's like, well, you pick the lock, but it falls on the ground and makes a loud sound and like everyone's alerted. And I like that in this game. It's like not a clear success, a clear failure. Like it still moves the action forward.
Like you got the thing you wanted, but you lost some condition for it because you had a low roll. Yeah, it's I've been playing also this game called Subterra, which is a really fun co-op board game, but it's not that complicated, but they do have like a skill check. And it's like if some bad event happens, you need to roll above a certain number or you take damage.
Okay.
Or like
cool.
if you want to squeeze, it's like a cave game sort of. If you want to like squeeze through fallen rock, you need to like roll for it, you know, stuff like that. Yeah, it's good. It's a good system.
One thing that's like sort of D&D adjacent about this that I don't love is like, and I don't really have a good, this is not to criticize, this is the whole, my issue with all this type of stuff is like, you can just like feel the exposition when you like encounter somebody new or something. It's like this is like, you're meeting this person because it's important or they want to tell you something and they like want to accomplish something by this conversation, which like doesn't happen in a book. I feel like it really slowly washes over you.
Right.
And it was like fine in this. Like I think the writing was good enough that it wasn't like too bad, but it was just like, okay, we're telling you something about the world here. We're telling you something about this character here. It was because there's like not a lot of text. Like they really are trying to move it through quickly, and it felt like a little heavy.
There's a lot of and thens at the end of sentences, right?
Yeah.
It's just like you do this, and then Rico pops up, and you're like, "Oh my god!"
Which actually, now that you guys mention it, is making me scared to recommend this to like readers. Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, it works differently than a book. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's maybe like comics or visual storytelling, right? It's like it's.
We need Vaughn's review. I want to hear a book reader's review, just like I want to hear someone who works in movies talk about immortality, right? Because
have we gotten anyone?
We need Leia to play or someone like that, you know. Yeah. But yeah.
Okay, well, I think that's a wrap.
That's a wrap. I want to just end with this Destructoid quote.
Yes.
That I thought was really good. It said, each morning is a roll of the die. Some days in Citizen Sleeper, I'm down on my luck, struggling to juggle multiple bars that I can top off but will never keep filled. Others, I'm thriving, awash in opportunities to chase whatever my heart desires. Some days I get to chase flights of fancy. Others, I have to pass on social calls just to survive. Like, yes, dude. Let's go. It makes me want to play all over again.
Yeah. That got me stoked.
Yeah. All right. Next game is Hollow Knight, right?
Yep. Next game's Hollow Knight.
Nice.
Souls heads. Metroidvania heads for choice.
Yeah. Shout out.
Excited. Never played it.
Ooh. Me neither.
We'll see.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Tune into the Discord. It's going to be some drama.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching.